So today I'm going to be interviewing Jutovsky. So some quick background on him. He studied political science at Claremont McKenna, worked in campaign management and business his whole life. So I think we're going to have a really interesting interview today. So let's just jump right in. Okay, so question number one. How did you come to be American?
Well, I was born in Southern California, which gave me the right to be an American.
Yes.
This was after my grandparents immigrated here from Eastern Europe in the 1920s. So I became an American simply by dint of birth.
But relatively recent compared to some.
Oh yeah, very recent. It was 1920
Wow.
that my grandparents came here.
It's interesting. So growing up, maybe rooted in that or rooted in something else, what was your perception of the United States? What did your parents maybe teach into you, or teach about the U.S. to you?
I would say that most of my knowledge about America and the United States and what the United States is came from school more than my parents. My parents were hardworking, sort of lower middle class. And my mom in particular was trying to get food on the table. My dad left the family when I was a kid. So there wasn't a lot of intense political dialogue going on in the house, other than when I was small and I argued with my father, who was a real right-wing sort of nut. So he and I didn't get along that well, even though I wasn't that left-wing, but he perceived me as that, even when I was like 12 years old.
Wow.
And then subsequently he left, and most of my political education came from school and reading.
So do you think, going a bit off script here, but do you think that, were you educated in the public education system?
Yes, I was strictly public education until I got to college.
So would you say that it was an effective job? They did a good job?
I think they did a great job.
Balanced?
I think it was relatively balanced, and I learned American history and I learned American politics, and I was able to form. I think I was able to form my own views of what was right, and what was wrong, and what it meant to be a citizen in this country, and how to behave as a citizen.
And you learned to read, and as
I
you
did
said,
learn
that's
to read.
But honestly, right? That's a huge defining
You're not
quality.
kidding. And I still read, and I even know how to do cursive.
Wow, there you have it.
There you have it.
So, stemming from that childhood and beyond, your college education, your reading, your life up until this point, how would you define your political beliefs now? Do they fall into Republican, Democrat, or are they a mix, or?
Oh, that's a somewhat complicated question in
Very.
a sense, but it's like my political beliefs are, I would consider them sort of a mix. I like to think of myself as just a practical person that tries to find problems and come up with solutions, not in an ideological fashion, but in a practical way. And so I am registered currently as a Democrat, even though I worked for the Republican Party for my whole youth, and I ran campaigns for the people who carry the Republican moniker. But things shift, and I shifted a bit away from that. So now I consider myself just a practical citizen who tries to find solutions.
And it's interesting, kind of tying it back to your upbringing. You mentioned that in the story of your young childhood too, right? Like, at the end of the day, it was about providing for your mom, providing for you, you guys getting through whatever tough spots you were in.
Correct.
So it is interesting. I think I can definitely see how my young years somehow actually did work in to kind of even more core beliefs than the political monikers.
Yes, I agree.
And those inform your political choices.
That's correct.
Yeah, so I think
Well
that's
analyzed for a
very interesting.
17-year-old.
Thank you. So kind of, I think we kind of just touched on it, but if you have anything else to say, I'll just ask this one.
Go ahead.
Do you think that political identity is the same as your Americanness?
No.
Right. Neither do I.
No. Look, politics is, about ideology, it's about individual issues, etc. But the idea of Americanism, if you will, is, more philosophical, more ingrained in us as children, and then we develop our sense of what an American is over time. And so we can get into that if you want, but no, I consider Republicans, Democrats, Independents, whatever, not to be un-American regardless of who they are. They're just they're part of the system.
Right.
And we have a multifaceted system.
And I think for me, part of the reason why I wanted to do this project is I think a lot of people my age associate so much more with a political moniker than the beliefs of that party. Or the beliefs of even something less party affiliated, like being a libertarian. There's kind of even a vitriol or a clickiness or a lack of communication, and I think hopefully through this project I could look into the idea that maybe those things are actually positive checks on each other and benefit the country if they can be discussed and
you have to
utilized.
You have to be able to discuss things with people and be calm about it and open-minded. I don't, the people with whom I might disagree on particular issues are countless, but when I run into them and when I talk to them, because I love having political conversations and economic conversations, because it just sort of inherently interesting and fascinating to me.
Right.
But my main approach when I talk to people who clearly disagree with me is basically to find out why they think the way they think. And to demonstrate some curiosity, which I actually do have, to find out where they're coming from, as opposed to just attacking for the sake of attacking. I find I think it's a really way better way of making progress in social relationships and in politics generally, just to have that kind of relatively open mind. Find out what your opposite thinks.
And I think that's even proven by the fact that, what you said earlier, that you can work and support a party, and then if that party changes or your beliefs change, you have the freedom.
You're right.
Partially because you are American, to open yourself up to the idea that things aren't stagnant and I'm going to go a different way.
Correct.
I like that idea.
That's one of the greatest things about this country, is that we do have that freedom, and we have it even today.
Yeah. All right. So going along with that positive energy about this country, what was the time that you were just really proud of being American? Really proud of this country? Could be a small moment or kind of a fundamental one.
I'm not a real prideful person. That said, I'm always, and have been since I was a small kid and aware of politics, I've always been proud of being an American. And the times when I'm particularly proud of that is every time we elect a new president. Because the fact that for 230 years, we've managed to change governments every 4 years and do so peacefully and civilly is a remarkable accomplishment. When you look at the history of virtually every other country over that period of time, I'm doubtful that there's another one other than maybe Great Britain that can make that claim.
Me too.
So those are the moments that I think America shines. Is when we have a new election, when we have a new administration take over, and we have smooth transitions, even when they're as radically different as the one we experienced a year ago.
Acceptance. And I think also when you have a big change, like what we've recently experienced as a country, you maybe have to fold inward a little bit and focus on and choose to hone in on those more fundamental beliefs.
Yes, correct.
That we talked about.
And you have to embrace the American spirit, if you will, and American history, and realize, okay, we've had these transitions quadrennially for over 200 years, and there have been radical changes from administration to administration, which anybody who's read American history understands. And the country, because of its fundamental premises and institutions, continues to thrive and survive.
Yeah, I really like what you said about institutions too, because for me, I think the moments I'm most proud to be an American are the moments where those institutions come into play and either curb something that seems to be going like way out of field, or perpetuate something that I think, oh, wow, like that's the people who made this were so smart,
That is
like
correct.
just it's honestly astonishing sometimes.
It is amazing
to watch it unfold.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
And what we're watching happen now is a perfect example. How the three branches of government check and balance one another. Yeah. It's amazing.
I love that answer. I would agree with what you said. So, do you think, I could probably guess your answer, but do you think that the presidency of Donald Trump changes that fundamental, you hear people say, this is so different. This is either like the end or this is the beginning, or it's so different. Do you think it's so different? Do you think it's really...
No, yeah, he's a very different kind of guy.
Right.
And as to the question of is it so different, the answer is no, it's not so different, in the sense that he's a politician, or he's become a politician, he's become the president, but he is subject to the same checks and balances other institutional leaders have been subjected to since the start of the country. And so, yeah, he's a strange personality, and he's a quirky guy. Trying to use my nicest language to describe him. But the institutions effectively check some of his most outrageous behavior, as it has with other presidents. And it will support him when he chooses to do things that are supportable to the people who man those other institutions.
And as I watch it unfold, I think one of the things that I find interesting as we kind of veer towards this topic of institutions is when things start maybe not going his way, the first point of attack is the institution's broken on his part. You hear him say over and over, the media is broken, or fundamental, I would argue, elements of the American system that have actually checked, as we said, really wacko things.
Right.
That's where he attacks. So I think that's almost proof that he kind of also understands that is the strong point. And that is what keeps the president from being tyrannical.
Right. So he does. Agreed. That's pretty good analysis. He doesn't like it, and hence he attacks the fact that it's broken, or he announces the fact that it's broken and it needs to be fixed. But it's enshrined in the Constitution, and it's sort of hard to fix the Constitution. The court can interpret the Constitution in a variety of different ways, but it trumps it trumps the president, it trumps any individual institution, because you have to look at the whole of the American power and institutional structure to see how it works. You can't just look at one piece and say, oh, well, this should be this way, that should be that way, which is what he likes to do. Because that's not how it's worked for the last 230 years, and I doubt he's going to be able to change it fundamentally.
Yes, I agree with all of that. So, could you, or maybe we, think of elements of identity or values that across political spectrums, economic spectrums, belief systems, religious maybe, that are American?
In my mind, I mean, it always goes back to, and I'm not sure that's exactly what you're asking for, but it always sort of comes back to the Constitution, because the Constitution is the foundation of the country, the Bill of Rights. And so even though, you know, one can have disagreements with different political figures and, you know, different actions of Congress, we always have the Constitution as the bedrock of the country in a political way, and that gives, you know, that gives me comfort. Even in the most divided times, I mean, people say how divided the country is right now, and certainly it is. But you know, you think back to the people writing the Constitution. You had the Federalists and you had the state rights guys, and you think about, I mean, the Civil War. You'd say the country was pretty divided for the Civil War. And I don't know if you remember 1968, but you don't remember it, but you might have read about it. I mean, the government, you know, was shooting people at political conventions. There was Kent State, where kids were shot in 1970. So yeah, we've had many periods in the last 200 plus years where we've had huge fissures between one side and another in the country. But again, the one abiding umbrella over all of it has been the Constitution, which is, regardless of whether it's interpreted at a particular time in a strict construction manner or a looser construction manner, a more activist manner, has always been the bedrock and, you know, the solid foundation that allows this country to move forward and allows its people to have the opportunities that this country provides.
Okay, I only have one more.
That would be my answer, I think.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. So I only have one more question. And that question is, maybe in one sentence, can you summarize for you what it means to be American? Or what is American?
Boy, in one sentence? Wow.
Or two or three.
To be an American means to be part of a country whose institutions offer its people the opportunities guaranteed in the Bill of Rights and the opportunities associated with economic growth on a personal level. And one of the roles of government should be to make sure that everybody in the country has those same opportunities. So being an American is being the beneficiary of all of that. And that's how I see being an American. And I'm grateful to be an American, and I feel that I should give back to the country through community service, and I wish more people felt that way. Wow. Okay, that was amazing. So that's all I have to ask you. That's it. Oh, that's awful. I'm sorry. I'm sorry it's over. Oh, no, that was actually great. Well, I hope I didn't fail. No. Come on. You know that was not even close to a fail. That was amazing. So thank you so much.